Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't intend to start with Iran, but I will, since that's where you finished. Mr. Secretary, you can see there's little, if any, daylight between myself and the chairman on this issue. I think he has stated for you as clearly and concisely as he can the lack of benefits of entering into an agreement at this point in time, particularly as it relates to the bad activities of Iran aside from its nuclear ambitions. As I've said, I believe that the Israelis, when they say publicly that Iran will never complete a nuclear weapon and they will see to it. The question for you is here, do you think the Iranians believe that today?
Ranking Member Risch, I think that what we have seen and have assessed over many years is that the Iranians have sought to move forward with their fissile material program, which is exactly what the JCPOA stopped, and if we were to resume compliance, would continue to stop and would buy us a decade on the critical sunsets in terms of the stockpile of fissile material, in terms of the enrichment level. At the same time, their efforts to actually weaponize based on public information, paused, stopped some years ago, but of course we look very carefully to see if they resume. So we would be focused on this like a hawk either way. But to your point and to the Chairman's point, which I agree with, the agreement does not address their other malicious activities. So we have two premises. One is that when it comes to those activities, things would be even worse if they had a nuclear weapon or the ability to get one on short notice. It would encourage them to act with even greater impunity. Second, an agreement, were we to reach one, does not take away in any way from our ability and determination to go at them in all of these other areas in concert with allies and partners. We spent a lot of time working with them on exactly that, everything from sanctions to interdictions to stopping the money flow that they need to produce these weapons and to move these weapons about. All of that would continue.
Well, thanks. That didn't really answer my question directly. I'm going to gather from what you said that you at least have some agreement with me that the Iranians do believe the Israelis when they say what's going to happen if they move towards weaponization. And if that's the case, look, they're going to do that. The Israelis are going to act, and they've said so, regardless of what the agreement says. We can make any agreement we want. They're going to act in their national interest. If that's the case, then we really need to focus on the other bad activities that Iran engages in, as were laid out by the chairman. And this agreement, I think you would have to agree, doesn't cover that. And it seems to me that that's really where we ought to be focused. In any event, I come back to, no agreement is better than a bad agreement, and I would urge you to move on. They've given us every indication that that would be appropriate for us to do, and I would encourage you to do that. Let's talk about Ukraine for a moment. We have an ambassador in place in Russia, still on the ground, without obviously disclosing any classified material. What can you tell us about the cables that are coming back from Russia, about the conditions on the ground in Russia and what's happening there, what people are thinking there? Can you enlighten us on that publicly at all?
You know, it's very challenging because what Putin has done over many, many years is set up, among other things, a state propaganda system that is such that whatever he says, whatever he communicates, a lot of people believe. Never mind the facts, never mind what's actually going on. So penetrating that information system is incredibly challenging. Having said that, I think what we're seeing is that people increasingly in Russia are feeling the effects of the disastrous decision by Putin to attack Ukraine. For example, upward of 600 companies have left Russia, including many of the major consumer brands that we all know and are familiar with. Increasingly, Russians are finding the things they thought they could take for granted, they can't. They can't buy the things they've been used to buying for the last almost 30 years. Their economy is contracting in a dramatic way. We see about a 15% contraction. The gains of the last 15, 20 years of opening are being erased. That's being increasingly felt in people's lives. The Russians' ability to modernize key sectors of their economy as a result of the export controls, that increasingly is biting. They're not going to be able to do it. All of this is going to be felt more and more. But there's a tension between the information and propaganda system that Putin has set up that is very effective and the actual facts. I think the facts increasingly will encroach and make themselves felt. But for now, I think what we're seeing is Russian people, to the extent that they're informed, continue to support, for the most part, President Putin.
Well, thank you for that. And I would encourage you to continue to tighten that screw. That is going to make a lot of difference as far as what actually happens on the ground in Russia. You're right. At least people publicly proclaim that they support Putin and want to go along with the war effort. I'm not so sure that actually exists privately. But
well, that's a very good point, because to your point, there are severe penalties for doing or saying anything in opposition to Putin's war, including 15 years in prison. So to the extent we're able to read public opinions, some portion of that is definitely colored by the fact that people are afraid to speak their minds. And final thing is, this gets to the heart of the Achilles heel of any autocracy, which is the inability of anyone to speak truth to power. And this has severely misinformed Putin himself about what's actually going on.
I appreciate that. Briefly, since my time's almost up, obviously we need to focus on China. China is the major, over this century, China is going to continue to be the major challenge that we have. And with what we've just gone through with Ukraine, I think it's important that we walk and chew gum at the same time and understand that the Taiwan issue is there, and that we ought to be thinking about that as we go forward. And obviously, the chairman and I have worked on bolstering Taiwan's defense. We're going to continue to do that. We look for you as a partner in that. It's certainly important as we go forward. It's going to be another challenge. With that, my time is up. Thank you.